My boyfriend broke up with me in front of my entire family, so I asked him to get back together. He agreed, not knowing I had an extra trick up my sleeve. I had been with James for over 5 years, and he was my best friend. He was the protective type. The type to make sure you walk on the other side of the sidewalk. The type to make sure you never open a door by yourself. But everyone has their flaws, and James's was running away. During our relationship, we had broken up a total of 15 times, with the longest breakup lasting 4 days. To any sane human, this would have been enough to walk. But unfortunately for me, I was putty in his hands. About 8 months ago, I finally graduated from college. My course was 6 years long, so this was a moment I'd been waiting for a very, very long time. And my mom, being the angel that she is, organized a graduation dinner. That evening, I blared white girl music and danced like I was 21 again. And when James came home, I practically jumped on him. I graduated today. I finally did it. I knew he was tired from work, but I was still hoping for a loving hug, or at least a congratulations. Instead, I got a lukewarm squeeze of the shoulder before he sighed and asked me to turn off the music. A wave of sadness hit me and I turned it off, thinking maybe he had a surprise and his congratulations would come afterwards, but it didn't. And as he sat on the couch and asked me to cook him a steak, I asked what his deal was. Dude, just let me chill. Quit acting like my mom. Tears stung my eyes, but I brushed them away because I didn't want him to call me a crybaby. James, why aren't you happy for me? Then came the words that always stung my soul, despite hearing them dozens of times before. Babe, I really don't think this is working out. I didn't even let him finish. I just jumped onto his lap and started making out with him. I guess I was just trying to forget the pain I was in, or how much of a drain our relationship had become in my life. In any case, it worked. For a while at least. Because it was during our lovemaking session that James grunted the words, "I'm so happy for you," and a euphoric sense of joy filled my bloodstream. I truly felt like I had earned those words. And regardless of everything, when the day of my dinner arrived, I was ecstatic. It would be James's first time meeting my entire extended family, all while celebrating the most monumental day in my life. I was so happy that even when James spewed his usual negativity and said, "Is this really necessary?" or "I don't really see what the big deal is," I was able to ignore it. Actually, it's more like I was able to convince myself he was joking, which is what I had done for our entire relationship, and is probably why I was with him for so long. I was so naive. But the night started out really great. James drove us to my mom's, and as I caught myself in the reflection of the rearview mirror, I genuinely thought to myself that I looked like a princess. I sure as heck felt like one too. When we got there, everyone was showering me with compliments. I was smiling so hard my cheeks hurt. I was never really the center of attention. Not because I didn't like it, but because it always gave James this look of scorn on his face that I wanted to avoid. But that time, I let myself bathe in it. We were all sitting down gorging on the beautiful dinners, yes plural, that my mom had cooked. When James asked me if he could make a toast, I smiled, thinking that he had finally risen to the occasion. I even helped to silence the table, my heart fluttering with dreams of what he was about to say. But then he stood up, with his expensive glass of champagne, and started yapping. "I am so happy to be celebrating with all of you today." He nodded in the direction of my family members. "Because now that we're all together, I can announce my decision to break up with Addison. I'm sorry, babe, but just being honest, seeing you crave so much attention all the time gives me the ick. I can't look at you the same." He then put his glass down and walked out. I was so shocked I couldn't even move. I felt my limbs freeze, my throat tighten like a vice, my face burned, and my stomach started flipping in knots. I looked at my mom, and when our eyes met, I saw that she looked embarrassed. A part of me wanted the men in my family to go out and hurt James, but instead, they just sat there looking like they were holding back a laugh. My sister was the only one who looked angry. It wasn't until I walked out and called an Uber home that I let myself cry. Mascara was streaming down my cheeks. My whole body was trembling. And that's when I got the call. It was James. I quickly cleared my throat and pitched my voice to not sound sad anymore. "Hope there's no hard feelings. OMG, James. I'm so sorry for being such an attention seeker. I didn't mean to make everything about myself. Please take me back," I interrupted. There was a short pause on the other side, and he asked if I promised to change, and I did. He told me to get the Uber back to his apartment instead, and I did. But what he didn't realize is that I wasn't the naive one anymore. James was. He thought he could ruin my day, and maybe he did, but I was going to ruin his life. I hung up and immediately texted Riley, "Don't worry, I have a plan." When I got to James's apartment, he opened the door with a smug look on his face. "That was quick," he said, stepping aside to let me in. I walked past him and sat on the couch. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told him, trying to sound small and defeated. "You're right, I do seek too much attention." He nodded, looking pleased with himself. "I'm glad you can see that now. It's been bothering me for a while." I swallowed my pride and asked, "So we're back together?" "I guess so," he said with a shrug. "Just try to be less, less me," I suggested. "Exactly," he said. That night, I slept next to him, plotting. The next morning, I woke up early and made his favorite breakfast. "What's this for?" he asked suspiciously. "Just trying to show you I can be better," I said with a sweet smile. He seemed satisfied with that and dug in. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of my plan. That day, I started setting things in motion. First, I called my mom and apologized for the scene at dinner. Then I explained what I was doing. I spent the next week being the perfect girlfriend, all while I gathered information, made notes, and prepared for what was coming next. 2 weeks after the dinner disaster, James left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered. I grabbed it and quickly scrolled through his messages and found exactly what I expected. Conversations with at least 3 different women. I took screenshots and emailed them to myself, then deleted the emails from his sent folder. I also found his banking app. James had over $30,000 saved. When I heard the shower turn off, I quickly put his phone back and pretended to be busy making coffee. "Hey babe, what do you want for breakfast?" I asked sweetly when he came out. "Whatever. I'm not really hungry," he mumbled, grabbing his phone. "I'm meeting Michael later to help him move some furniture, Lieutenant." But I just smiled and said, "That's so nice of you to help him." After James left, I called Riley. How's Operation Take Down the Jerk going? She asked. I found evidence he's been talking to other women, I told her, and he's been hiding money from me. Riley wasn't surprised. What's your next move? I'm not sure yet, I admitted, but I need to get my stuff out of his apartment soon. Can I crash with you for a while? Already set up the guest room, she said. Just say when. The following weekend, James announced he was going on a fishing trip with his buddies. Another lie. Perfect timing for me. I waited until he left Friday morning, then called in reinforcements. Riley arrived with her boyfriend Will and my cousin Taylor. We loaded up everything I owned into their cars. I left behind anything James had given me. Before leaving, I wrote a quick note. Needed some space to think. Back Sunday. I stuck it on the fridge. Riley's apartment was cozy and welcoming. That night, we ordered pizza, and I finally felt myself relaxing. So what's step 2? Taylor asked. Well, I'm not just going to disappear, I explained. That would be too easy on him. I want him to realize what he's losing, then make sure he can never get it back. The next morning, I went job hunting. I had an interview lined up at a small agency for Monday. I spent the weekend organizing my new life and gathering more evidence of James's betrayals. Sunday night, my phone blew up. James had returned home to find my stuff gone. I didn't respond to his texts or calls. Finally, around midnight, I replied with a single text. I need more time. I'll call you when I'm ready. Monday morning, I nailed my interview. The small agency offered me a position on the spot. I texted Riley the good news. When I turned my phone back on after the interview, I had 37 missed calls from James. I ignored them all and went to the bank to open a new account. By Wednesday, James had gone from angry to desperate. He started calling my mom, my friends, even my old college professors trying to track me down. I finally answered one of his calls on Thursday night. Addison, where are you? I've been going out of my mind. His voice cracked. I needed some time away to think about us, I said calmly. What's there to think about? We're fine. Come home. Are we, James? After what you did at my graduation dinner? He paused. That was just a joke that went too far. Your family knows I was kidding. I nearly dropped the phone. A joke? You publicly humiliated me on one of the most important days of my life as a joke? You're overreacting. Just come home and we can talk about it. I don't think I'm coming back. There was silence. Then, you'll be back. You always come back. He hung up. The next day, I went back to James's apartment when I knew he'd be at work. While there, I noticed several empty whiskey bottles in the trash. As I was leaving, his elderly neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, spotted me. Addison, I haven't seen you in days. Is everything all right? I liked Mrs. Peterson. I moved out, Mrs. Peterson. James and I broke up. Her face softened. Good for you, dear. That boy never treated you right. I heard him yelling at you through the walls more times than I can count. By the way, she added, his little girlfriend was here the other night, so he'd already moved on. I thanked Mrs. Peterson and left. That weekend, Riley convinced me to go out to celebrate my new job. I was nursing my second drink when I felt someone watching me. I turned to see a man around my age smiling at me. His name is Daniel, Riley whispered. Daniel eventually made his way over and introduced himself. We talked about books, movies, normal things. I didn't give him my number, but the interaction reminded me that there were decent men in the world. Just as I was starting to feel good, my phone buzzed with a text from James. I know where you are. Who's the new guy? Didn't take you long to move on. I froze, scanning the bar. Riley noticed my expression and grabbed my phone. That's it. We're changing your number tomorrow, she said. The next morning, Riley took me to get a new phone and number. I went to work on Monday feeling more confident. During my lunch break, I stepped outside for some fresh air and nearly ran straight into James. Found you, he said. Nice place. Below your potential, though. My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. What are you doing here, James? Coming to talk some sense into you. This little independence phase is cute, but it's gone on long enough. I laughed. This isn't a phase. I'm done. His smile faltered. You don't mean that. Look, I know I messed up at the dinner. I've apologized. What more do you want? You've never actually apologized, I pointed out. And there's nothing you can do or say to fix this. We're over. His expression darkened. Is this about the money in my account? I was saving for a surprise vacation. This is about 5 years of manipulation and emotional abuse that I'm finally free from. Abuse? He scoffed. Don't be so dramatic. I protected you. I loved you more than anyone ever will. That's not love, James. That's control. I turned to go back inside, but he grabbed my wrist. You're making a huge mistake, he hissed. Let go of me, I said loudly. He released me. This isn't over, he warned before walking away. I was shaking when I got back to my desk. I went home early. Riley found me curled up on the couch. He showed up at my job, I told her. He's not going to stop. Then we need to get serious, she said. Time for phase 2. Phase 2 involved a more aggressive approach. I filed for a temporary restraining order. The judge granted it. When James was served with the papers, he exploded. He violated the order within hours by sending me dozens of threatening texts. I forwarded them all to my lawyer and the police. Riley helped me set up a website. I titled it 5 Years of Lies and started documenting everything. The blog was therapeutic for me, but it also connected me with other women who'd been through similar experiences. Then a woman named Jessica emailed me privately. We met for coffee, and she shared her own horror stories about James. He told me his ex was crazy and obsessive, she said. I'm guessing that was you? I nodded. Well, I dated him for about 3 weeks before I caught him cheating. When I confronted him, he threw my phone across the room. We exchanged stories for hours. Meeting Jessica validated everything I'd been feeling. Over the next few weeks, 3 more women contacted me with similar stories. We formed a support group. Meanwhile, James wasn't handling the restraining order well. He got drunk one night and showed up at Riley's apartment. We called the police and he was arrested for violating the order. Instead of scaring him straight, the arrest seemed to fuel his anger. He started spreading rumors about me. Through all this, I kept working on myself. I joined a therapy group. I threw myself into my new job. I even went on a casual coffee date with Daniel. About 2 months after moving out, I was feeling stronger. Then Riley received a letter. No return address, but the handwriting was James's. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 5 words. I know what you did. I showed the note to my therapist, who advised me not to respond. A week later, another letter arrived. This one contained printed screenshots of old text conversations between James and me. At the bottom, he'd written, "Would be a shame if your new employer saw these." I took the letters to the police. I asked Jessica and the other women from James's past if they'd be willing to make statements about his behavior. 3 agreed. I compiled their stories along with my own documentation and brought it all to a lawyer friend of Riley's named Alex. Alex reviewed everything and told me I had a solid case for a permanent restraining order. The hearing was set for a month away. In the meantime, James escalated. He created fake social media accounts to leave nasty comments on my blog. He sent an anonymous email to my company claiming I was embezzling funds. He even showed up at my mom's house. Each time we documented everything. 2 weeks before the hearing, I received a friend request on Facebook from someone named Lisa Jenkins. I accepted. Almost immediately, she sent me a message. "You don't know me, but I'm James's current girlfriend. We need to talk." I agreed to meet her. Lisa turned out to be the blonde Mrs. Peterson had mentioned. "I found your blog," she said. "At first, I thought you were just a bitter ex, but then the things you described, they started happening to me too." She showed me her phone. Dozens of texts from James. "Last week, he threw a glass at the wall because I was 10 minutes late coming home from work," she said. "I told myself it was a one-time thing, but after reading your site, I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. It's not a one-time thing. It's a pattern." Lisa had tears in her eyes. "He told me you were psychotic." I laughed without humor. Standard James procedure. We talked for over an hour. I gave her information about the resources that had helped me. By the end, she had decided to break things off with James. "I'm scared," she admitted. "He has keys to my apartment." "Change the locks," Riley advised, joining us. Lisa thanked us and left. The next evening, I received a barrage of texts from an unknown number. Clearly James. "You turned her against me." The first one read. I didn't respond, just forwarded them to Alex and the police. The day before the hearing, I received an email from Robert, James's older brother. "Addison, I heard about what's been happening from my mother." The email read, "I want you to know that I believe you, and I'll be at the hearing tomorrow to support your request for a permanent restraining order." I read the email 3 times. The morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully. Riley, my mom, and Taylor all came for moral support. Alex met us outside the courthouse. Inside the courtroom, I saw James for the first time in months. The hearing began, and Alex presented our case. When Robert took the stand as a character witness, James looked shocked. His brother spoke about James's history of controlling behavior. By the time the judge called a short recess, James looked defeated. When court resumed, his lawyer announced that James would not contest the permanent restraining order. The judge granted the order. As we left the courtroom, I felt an enormous weight lift off my shoulders. Robert approached me in the hallway. "I'm sorry," he said. "Thank you for being here today," I replied. "It made a difference." He nodded. He's agreed to enter therapy. That night, we celebrated. The next morning, I made one final update to my blog. I titled the post, "Beginning Again." As I hit publish, my phone rang. It was Lisa. "I did it," she said. "I broke things off." "You did the right thing," I told her. After we hung up, I looked at my reflection in the mirror. James had tried to break me, but he'd failed. Daniel texted me while I was closing my laptop. "Dinner tonight?" I smiled and typed back, "Perfect, but I'm paying this time." I glanced at the clock. Still a few hours before I needed to get ready. Plenty of time to curl up with Freya and the book I'd been meaning to finish. As I settled onto the couch, I realized I was happy. James had tried his best to destroy me. Instead, he'd accidentally helped me discover just how unbreakable I really was.